Good day, everyone. This is Pineleaf Needles, and welcome to DDO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in DDO and here at DDO Players. And please welcome my co-host from Ravenloft, Dracula.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Everything's going well on this end. So
Not a turbine, apparently.
Well, no. The good news is that they applied the patch for Update 25. The bad news is the servers are giving them headaches.
We really don't know what really is going on. Basically, servers went down this morning as planned for, of course, Update 25, the Reign of Elemental Evil. And they were supposed to go up at noon. Well, shortly before noon, we got a tweet that said the final work is being done on the game worlds. They're going to extend the downtime until 1 p.m., which is fairly normal. I mean, usually the downtimes do get extended out like a half hour or an hour, so that was not that major of a thing. Then, shortly before 1 p.m., or a little after 1 p.m., I should say, we got another tweet from DDO Unlimited on Twitter, and they said the game worlds remain unavailable. No current ETA is available. We will keep you updated. They are correcting an issue seen prior to opening.
Yeah.
So that's a little mysterious tweet. And then the last tweet that they sent, basically the game worlds still remain unavailable. They're working on a fix. They do expect the worlds to reopen at some point this evening, but they'll keep us updated.
We shall have to see. We can only expect that whatever is happening is a conspiracy by the princes of the apocalypse.
The elements just do not want to be tamed, I guess.
No, they don't want to be tamed. They're evil, after all.
Maybe they're just misunderstood, Pinely. See, that's the problem.
Oh, yes, of course.
That's the problem. Everybody keeps calling them evil, and it's like, maybe they're just misunderstood.
All right. Well, there is an update trailer for the Reign of Elemental Misunderstood, and how'd you like the teaser?
I really liked it. This is one of the better teasers they've done. I think the best thing I liked about it was the music and the sound effects they used. It's a pretty good trailer. If you haven't checked it out, we do have it linked over on ddoplayers.com. You can check it out, and they did update it today, but we'll talk about a little later why they updated it. We're kind of saving the big news for a little bit. Everybody's like, why aren't they talking about it yet? Why aren't they talking about it yet? We'll get to it.
All right, then. Let's go into the release notes, then.
So the release notes did come out today like they normally do. So apparently those haven't changed with whatever the mystery problem is. Nothing really changed too much from the Lamania ones. We do have a new monster manual, of course. Everybody knew that was coming, and that will be free to VIPs. Premium and free-to-play, of course, we'll have to buy that in the store. I was going to look... when we were on Lamania, I forgot to open it up to check it out to see what new monsters were added to it. I was going to look on the forums today to see if anybody had listed that on the Lamania forums, but I didn't have time to check that today. And then, of course, we do have some game changes as well. It's not just, this whole update is not just about the Temple of Elemental Evil.
What?
I know, shockingly as it is. The biggest change is to combat, where if you fire a crossbow, you're going to be pretty excited about this. The crossbow animation. Now fire and reload with one click. And now queue up attacks properly. Both repeating and non-repeating crossbows have been changed to reflect this. And
I'll have to see that when I
was going to say, Pineleaf, you would be one to be able to talk about this, because I don't use a crossbow. I use a regular bow in my Ranger.
Yes, but I don't remember using it all that much in the the first round of beta didn't have the
right. Yeah, that was one of the later updates where they actually added this in. So
I'll probably have to speak about that next week when I can see what's going on and the change to the crossbow. Hopefully it's not the crossbow mechanism that broke the server.
I hope not. That would be horrible. And if it is, I'm going to blame you, Pineleaf.
Uh-huh.
It's all Pineleaf's fault. He broke the servers.
Wonderful.
Also in this update, bleed damage will now scale to 200% with melee power, and that still sounds very overpowered to me, but apparently people like it. Ranged power has been added to epic levels and the epic destiny cores. And hirelings, no, they didn't fix the AI, unfortunately.
Oh.
That's still coming, so your hirelings will still act pretty stupid, probably. But there's something interesting that I guess I didn't notice in the Lamania notes, and I noticed this today, that veteran status characters, of course, that's the ones where you create a new character and you just automatically skip them to level 7. You are now going to receive a contract for a cleric hireling.
Well, actually, I think one of the reasons for this is with Temple of Elemental Evil, going into the Temple of Elemental Evil without a hireling is probably suicidal if you're soloing.
One would assume, unless without some healing, I think you're going to be in trouble.
Right. And one of the problems that you have is that when you use the veteran status is you come in with 0 money.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, you are correct. You do. I did not even think about that.
So you can't hire someone unless you do another dungeon first or something like that.
Right.
To get some
send money from one of your other characters over
through the mail
or whatever.
Platinum Vault or something like that.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I didn't think about that, but yeah. So okay, it kind of makes sense now. And I am too. Like I said, I didn't test this on Lamania because I didn't. If it was in the Lamania patch notes, I missed it. So I'm assuming this is a one-time only contract. It's not like a permanent one.
No, I have a feeling, it's one of those 1-hour contracts.
Yeah, that's what I assumed too.
And I suspect that the idea is, though, that when it runs out, you'll probably have enough money.
Yeah, you should have enough to where you can, exactly. A few other changes in the patch notes to point out. Of course, you can head over to see the full release notes. But there's 2 of them that excites me to no end. The first one is ammunition, I should say, found in chest is now going to appear in stacks of 100.
Oh boy,
that is awesome.
Right, because if you don't have the ability to summon ammunition, I'm always careful with ammunition because 2 shots and boom.
Right, yep. And the other big thing that I literally jumped up and down and screamed Yahoo when I found this out, that Thieves tools will now stack up to 1,000 in a stack.
Oh, thank goodness.
That is amazing.
Another good one for artificers.
That's going to free up so many bag space for me because I have 3 or 4 different stacks of Thieves tools. So now I can just have 1 stack and I'll be happy. So that is basically some of the highlights out of the release notes. As I said, you can head over to DDOplayers.com, click on the article, and check out the link for the full release notes if you want to read them all.
And now for the big one.
That's right. We'll talk about the news that everybody, today at about 10:30 Eastern Time, if you heard this loud explosion, that was the collective minds and heads of all the geeks and nerds everywhere around the world, their heads just exploding when they heard this news.
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry, but I think it would have been the second loud. I think there would have been an even louder one if a certain other person...
This is true.
Yes.
I can dream.
Okay.
I can dream. If you did not see the news, Turbine managed somehow to keep this totally under wraps. They didn't even hint about this. And the way they did it was kind of slick, too, because they didn't do a press release or anything on it. They just sort of included this in the release notes today. That if you were on the Lamania, you might have noticed there was no Dungeon Master voiceovers on any of the Lamania build. And they said, when it goes on live, we'll have a Dungeon Master voice in there, so don't worry. So, everybody's like, okay, cool. I assumed everybody thought it was going to be, the same ones that they're currently using. Well, it turns out, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Will Wheaton is going to be the Dungeon Master voice for the Temple of Elemental Evil. And nerds and geeks everywhere are cheering with happiness. So yes, as I said in the article I wrote about this, Will Wheaton is a long-time D&D player, so he has the cred to do this. And he's also currently the patron, as I said, the patron saint of all things geek. So I'm sure it's going to turn out good.
All
And
right.
if you've watched any of his tabletop episodes, a lot of times he will do some like voices and stuff. If he can work it in for whatever game they're playing on tabletop, so it should be a great thing.
All right. And probably gave him some practice because for the campaign he's running over the summer on tabletop.
Actually, no. That is going to be a game that he designed.
I know it's a game that he's.
Oh, yes,
When in practice, I mean.
Oh, yes,
Being a DM.
Yes, exactly.
Obviously, since it's a different system, it's not going to be a D&D practice for it. Yeah.
And let me go back just a little bit because I wasn't paying attention to the chat room. Nithpon in the chat is asking, is the Cleric going to be for both level 4 and level 7 veteran levels? And it is only the level 7 veteran level.
Which means very definitely for Temple of Elemental Evil, so people don't get squashed immediately going inside there.
Yes, exactly. And also, Mock Taskmaster says he really enjoyed the work that Wheaton did in DC Universe Online, which I guess I didn't realize he did a voice in DC Universe Online. I'll have to look some of those videos up to see that. So that was news to me that he actually voiced that. But so there you go. Everybody's excited about Will Wheaton being our DM and talking about how we all died.
All right, then. Let's go into Dungeons & Dragons Online, the Ed Greenwood interview, which I believe was hinted at by our guest last week.
Yes, it was. He had said he was working on something that he was uploading to YouTube. Well, this was it. And what this is, of course, Ed Greenwood is the creator of the Forgotten Realms and the Haunted Halls of Evening Star. And if you run that series of quests, the Haunted Halls of Evening Star in game, Ed Greenwood is the dungeon master for it. And and I can't speak exactly what you have to do to unlock this, but you can basically unlock this interview in game as well. If you do certain things in the quest, we're not high enough level to run it, so I don't know what you have to do. But they decided to go ahead and Cordobin had said enough time has passed to where they thought they could go ahead and release this in its entirety so everybody could listen to it if you haven't ran that series of quests yet. And I will say everybody needs to listen to this interview. It is amazing. Number one, Ed Greenwood has the coolest voice anywhere. His voice is just awesome. So that makes it well worth a listen. And then he goes into the backstory of how he created Forgotten Realms, how he created the Haunted Halls, some of his things he thought about doing that he couldn't do because at the time it was TSR. And TSR said, no, you can't do that. That's like too much for this dungeon. And how he kind of had to change it a little bit. And how some of that stuff he actually got to add back in when Turbine brought it into DDO. So definitely worth it. It's a little over an hour, so it's a little bit longer interview, but well worth the listen.
All right, then. Let's then head into That's the thing is, yes, they're changing the format for the Chronicle, or I should say the day for the Chronicle.
Cordovin said they're doing it for a couple different reasons. It gives readers and Turbine themselves more time to promote events and things happening that upcoming weekend, and it will also open up the time spent getting the Chronicle ready for publication on Fridays for something else. And he hints at maybe a new Twitch show, for example. And he did say they're going to try this. The next issue of the Chronicle will be the one that's going to be published on Tuesday. And they're taking feedback in the forums on it. If people like it, they'll stick with it. If people just really don't like it coming out on Tuesday for some reason, he said they're not opposed to moving it back to Friday. This is just something they want to try to see how it works.
All right, then. Then let's head into the store sales. Anything good on sale this week?
Well, there is, as a matter of fact. The free sample of the week through April 9th is a pretty decent free sample. It's a Bell of Opening. Use coupon code OPEN03, OPEN03, and that is one per account. 20% off Slayer count boost, shared bank, platinum vault, bag deposit box, and upgrades, and also Jewels of Fortune. There is a 75% off launch special on veteran status. Imagine that.
Ooh.
They really
Yeah,
want people to get to level 7 so they can go into the temple.
Oh, yes, they are really pushing the tempo. All right. Latest update is they're hoping to reopen the worlds by 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, obviously by then.
Well, we'll see. So that's a couple more hours yet. So
All right. All right. Then let's head into the site news. And first off, you have a few points to give away, don't you?
we are giving 500 turbine points away.
Ooh.
And it's pretty simple to enter this. All you have to do is just head over to ddoplayers.com, look for the 500 point giveaway article. Makes sense so far, right? And just leave a comment in there. It can be any comment you want. It doesn't have to be an answer to anything. You can just say hi, or you can say free point, or you can just put a letter in there. It doesn't matter. Just as long as you have a comment in there, you will be entered. And what I will do is I will count all of the comments up, and it is one comment per person. And just so people know, because I saw people try to do this, as the site admin, I can see your IPs. So you can try to enter under a different name if you want, but your IP is going to stay the same unless you go somewhere else on like a public computer somewhere and enter that way, and then I can't catch it. But if you do it from your same machine, your IP is going to be the same, and you're only going to get one entry. We've had a few people that tried that. So just a heads up, I see your IP, folks. What I'm going to do is count the number of responses, and I will go to random.org, put in that number, and it's going to pop me out a number, and I'm going to count. And whatever number reply is that number, you will win the points. I will email you. I need to hear back from you so I know it is an active email, and then I will send you your points. Easy as that. And you have until this Wednesday, which would be April the 8th, if you're listening live. If you're listening on the podcast, hopefully you downloaded it when it comes out, because we do come out on Wednesday. I'm going to let it go until midnight Eastern time on that Wednesday, so technically it would be Thursday morning. So you need to get your entries in for this by Wednesday, April 8th at midnight. So I'm going to close all entries and then draw the winner sometimes on Thursday.
Right. So therefore, if you live out in Hawaii or something like this, you better get it in earlier on Wednesday rather than
yes,
later.
Correct. And then what I'll do is I'm going to give the winner a few days to respond. If they don't respond, I will draw somebody else, and I'll keep going until somebody responds to me. So please, please, please make sure whatever email you enter in when you enter your comment is an active email that you do check, because I do want to make sure somebody can use these turbine points.
All right, then. And you could use those turbine points to look at the glorious sunrise over the harbor.
You can, just like in our screenshot of the week. Imagine that. And this was actually a listener submitted screenshot, which I love. If you have screenshots that you're proud of, send them to podcast@ddoplayers.com, podcast@ddoplayers.com, and we will feature them on the site. And like I said last week, we do feature them in the order which we receive them. And this one comes to us from Mock Task. And he says, I typically play on a laptop with lots of the eye candy turned off. And I was really set aback when I booted up a much more powerful PC and I cranked up some of the settings to actually see how nice the harbor can actually look. Notably during a nice sunrise like this. And he has a nice little screenshot of the lighthouse in the harbor and the sun going down with the clouds. And I must say, when you click on it to get to full size, it's a pretty awesome looking little screenshot.
Whee! All right, then. Then let us go into our news beyond DDO, which has more news in a story we've been covering recently relating to Gen Con.
Yes, the news story that, as I refer to, refuses to die.
Oh.
Yes, this is, of course, if you listened to the show last week, we talked about it for quite a bit. There is a House bill in Indiana called SB 101. It's also referred to as the Religious Freedom Reparation Act, or RFRA. And that did get signed.
Riff-raff?
Yeah, riff-raff, exactly. It did get signed into law by Governor Mike Pence, and Gen Con was, against it, and they sent several letters, and we talked about that last week. Well, now it seems like a couple, I guess I should say it's more than a couple, it's like 37 different State senators and representatives from Washington State are trying to woo Gen Con away from Indiana and have them move to Washington State. This is spearheaded by a senator by the name of Steve Hobbs. He sent a letter to the Washington State native and CEO of Gen Con, Adrian Seward. And in the letter, he says, and this first part of this letter, it made me seriously laugh out loud today when I read this. He says, Washington is nerdvana. There you go. That's all you need to know. He says, our state has long been a hub of all things comics, games, and other entities loved by the people of all walks of life. Conventions such as Dragonfight, PAX, Lock and Load, PAZicon, Emerald City Comic Con, and others call Washington State home. They are well attended and would immediately welcome Gen Con into the convention fold. Gaming companies such as Wizards of the Coast, Virtue, Privateer Press, Pazio, Catalyst Game Labs, and WizKids are also all located here, and our households and other household names such as Valve, Nintendo, PopCap, and Microsoft are here as well. And then he goes on to lay out some other reasons why they should move. And you can see the full letter on the site. I did link it. So there was no response from Gen Con on this, but as we talked about last week, Gen Con, of course, is locked into Indianapolis until the year 2020, and they are just now looking at what they're going to do if they're going to extend their contract. And then I should also... go ahead if you had something to say.
Well, the letter from the senator does say after their contract.
Yes, yeah, and that's I guess I should have stated that in the article too. That he's not trying them to get their break their contract now. He's just saying, hey, in 2020, when you are looking to move somewhere, we would love to have you. But let me throw another wrinkle in the plans here for Gen Con. The Indiana's General Assembly overwhelmingly passed an amendment to RFRA. And that was signed by the government, or the governor, sorry. And that did remove most of what Gen Con and other people were really against in the bill, basically the discrimination and refusal of services statewide. So the amended law now reflects Indianapolis' own longstanding human rights ordinance, which protects against discrimination based on your sexual orientation or your gender identity. So with the new way the RFRA law is written now, no one can refuse you services under that law, period, for any reason. So I am tired of talking about this law, and if you live in Indiana, this is all you hear about.
Yeah.
Like I do. So, basically what Gen Con was opposing in the law, they have kind of changed the wording of the law to where you can't do what Gen Con was worried about. And Indianapolis already had a city law that wouldn't allow you to do that anyway. So, like I told you before the show, I really don't think Gen Con's going to go anywhere after their contract. I think they're going to renew their contract, and this is all going to be, people just freaking out. So
that's got to be the fastest I ever heard of a law being amended.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I could tell you stories of the governor was like, I didn't know people were going to freak out this much about this law. So, you guys need to word this different, and let's work together and make this better. And they did. So yeah.
All right then. Let's then head off into our week in DDO. And Jirak, what did you do?
Well, I actually did a lot in game this week.
I do see quite a bit here.
I took my wizard, who was my Pale Master, got to level 5. I also hit 100 favor in the process. Basically, what I was trying to do is this is the character I'm going to run through the temple with you when we play weekly. So I was trying to get to level 7. I didn't quite do that, but we still have a couple days because we play on Wednesday nights, so maybe I'll be level 7 by then. I ran pretty much all of the Harbor Quest, and I decided I was going to be crazy and try to do them on Elite because you get more experience that way.
Right.
And I actually didn't have too much of a problem.
Okay.
There was, and of course now that I want to talk about it, I can't remember what quest it was. There was one quest that I died a lot. It was horrible on Elite at level 4. I was level 3.5 at the time when I was running it. And of course, Elite bumped to level 4, so it was above my I want to say
How about the Butcher's Path? Sounds like a good
that's what
candidate
it
for
was.
that.
That's what it was. It was the Butcher's Path. That was absolutely horrible. But I did manage to do it. I just had to. I got killed a couple times, and I just had to go back in. And luckily, I got back in time. The dungeon didn't reset. So, other than that, I didn't have too much of a problem. That was the only one that I really ran into problems on. So I'm basically done with the harbor. I'm going to start doing the waterworks quest chain now. And that hopefully, because I'm like 5.5, I think. So I think if I run the waterworks, I should be able to get to level 7 or maybe close enough to where I can do a couple daily dice rolls and use the experience out of that.
I thought you would try something like Chanticleer or...
I didn't even think about doing Chanticleer, but that's what I should do because that's better experience. So yeah, maybe I'll.
Right. Yeah, I'd say Chanticleer and the one and the Sharn Syndicate.
Mm-hmm. That's a good idea. That's what I should probably do. And
all right.
Game wise, I'll let you talk about what we did then. I did do some Dungeons and Dragons related things. You can remember I've been talking about it every now and again. I'm running a conversion of Ravenloft to 5e, and I'm running that for a group of my friends who I'm going to just state now, and one of them is actually in the chat room now, so yes, I'm talking to you. You are the luckiest party ever on the history of the Earth that has ever played. Is all I'm saying. They are still alive. This is the party that refuses to die. It's like dumb luck. It's pure dumb luck why they're still alive. They're really in trouble now, though, because they're split 3-2.
Don't split the party!
And it's their own fault they got split, so they're not looking good.
So what's this thing about no armors and weapons and stuff like that?
Okay, so if you're familiar with the Ravenloft mod at all, before you go into the castle proper, you're out on the grounds and you find the carriage house. And you can go in the carriage house if you want. And then behind the carriage house is like a stone wall. And you can look over the stone wall and it looks straight down the mountainside down. And you can see the village of Barovia. It's like 1,000 feet below you. Well, about 120 feet down, there is... For some reason, and why it's written into the mod, I have no idea, because you actually don't do anything with it. There's nothing in the mod that tells you what to do, so I had to make all this stuff up on the fly. My dumb party decided, oh, hey, look, 120 feet down, there's like some light and a small little platform. Let's try to climb down there. And I'm like, guys, seriously, you really want to? Yeah, we want to go down there. I'm like, okay, how are you going to do it? So they devised this plan to climb down there with, they actually survived the climb down. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. The first one that went down was the Dragonborn fighter, idiot Dragonborn fighter. He gets down, he almost makes it all the way, and what I did is I made him I think it was like 20 feet. I made him do a dex check to see, if they were still sliding down the rope.
He has appropriate skill?
He did.
Oh, okay.
He did. His final dex check, I want to say he was about 40 feet from the platform. He failed his dex check. So I'm like, all right, you fell. Well, I calculated the damage, and he actually survived the fall because he was close enough to survive it. So I'm like, all right. So he's down there. So then the paladin's like, hey, I'll go down there too. So I'm like, seriously? Okay. So the paladin starts sliding down this rope. Well, he too failed his check, but he was a little higher up when he failed his check. So he actually got to -1 hit points in his fall. But luckily the fighter was down there and had a healing pot, and he got him back up. So I was foiled at killing a party member that time.
And what's this thing about a dead vampire falling from above?
I was getting to that.
Okay.
So that leaves... Okay, so there's 2 of the party on the platform about 120 feet down. So the other 3 part of the party was still up at the top, right?
Right.
So I start going, okay, fine. You're going to play this little game where you're going to climb down one by one. I'm going to start throwing monsters at you. So I started out with a group of spiders that almost killed them, but they managed to survive it thanks to their wizard and his stupid fire. But that's another matter. So then I threw a group of vampires at them. Well, I can't remember, I think it was the barbarian, got the smart idea that he's like, okay, let me try to grapple one of the vampires and we'll just like fling him over the edge. So I'm like, okay, sure.
You're going to win a strength check against a vampire.
And he did. He won. Like, that goes back to the luckiest party on the face of the earth.
Okay.
Matter of fact, he rolled a natural 20 on that. And I was like, seriously? Really? So anyway. So he picks this vampire up and he flings this vampire. So being the evil DM that I am, I'm like, okay, you two that are down on this platform, you're going to have to roll a dexterity check to see if you move out of the way because there's a vampire that's coming flying down from above you that is going to land on you. So the fighter got his dex check and he rolled out of the way. Paladin was not so lucky. So the paladin ended up with a dead vampire on top of him. That almost killed him. It did a lot of damage to him. So then I'm like, all right. So then the wizard decided, oh, sure, I'll climb down there with you. So he climbs down there. And the whole time I'm thinking, okay, you're not even supposed to be here. So what am I going to do? Because there's nothing in the module to tell me, okay, this is what happens, once your party gets here and this is where they end up. So I'm like, all right, fine. So once they got down there, I'm like, okay, what are you guys going to do now? So then they decided, well, we'll check to see if there's a secret door or whatever there. So I made what I thought was going to be a really high DC check. Right. And of course, luckiest party on the earth rolled the DC against to find a secret door. So I'm like, fine, you find a secret door, it leads to a cave entrance. So they're like, and I can't remember, I think the fighter is like, okay, well, I'll go ahead and go in there. Well, at this point, I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do because none of this is in the mod, so I'm just going to make stuff up. So I devised a crafty little trap for them. As soon as the fighter stepped through, a wight replaced him immediately in all of his gear and his armor, and the fighter ended up in the wight's coffin.
Okay.
So there's a wight standing in front of them instantly, wearing all of the fighter's armor and having the fighter's weapon, which therefore the fighter is wearing what the wight had on, which is basically a burial gown.
Okay.
So the wizard and the paladin managed to take out the wight. And then I'm thinking, okay, these idiots saw what happened when somebody walked through there.
Oh, no.
The paladin's like, I'll go through next. And I'm like,
seriously?
Yeah, I'm like, seriously? So a wight took his place as well. And I'm like, oh my God. So basically, and then the other two morons that were up top decided, well, we're going to like pull the carriage out, hook the rope to the carriage, and both of us are going to climb down to this platform too. So I'm like, okay, fine. So they got down there, and then the wizard's like, I'm like, okay, what are you guys going to do? And they're like, well, obviously we can't go anywhere. And then I was evil to them, and I can't remember what it was. I had something attack them, and it broke the rope. So now they can't get back up, and they can't go down because they don't have any more rope, and it's a long way down to the village. So their only way to go now is in.
I assume no one has a flight spell.
No. No. So, yeah. So I said, so what are you guys going to do now? And they're like, well, I guess we're going to have to go through. And then I'm like, are you sure you want to go through there? And the wizard's like, well, and then about that time, the cleric said, well, why are there two dead wights here? So I'm like, finally, somebody is thinking with their head. And then, of course, the wizard said, well, every time somebody walks through there, yada, yada, yada. So, of course, being the party and my friends that I have, they tell the wizard, well, go ahead and go through there and we'll kill the wight that takes your place. So the wizard's like, okay, I'll go through. So the wizard goes through. So, of course, the wight takes their place. Then they pick up all the armor that's in there, and they decided, okay, well, what would happen if we throw the armor through? So I'm like, okay, throw it through. And so they threw it through. Nothing happened. I'm like, you see the armor inside of the cave about 10 feet. So they threw all the equipment through. And
Okay.
then they're like, okay, so what happens if we go through? I'm like, well, try it. So I'm like, see what happens. So they go through, nothing happens. And they're like, but it happened. I'm like, nothing happens. So therefore, the party is now split, and two of the people have no armor and weapons. And the cleric, they managed to pry open one of the coffins, and I rolled really crappy, and the cleric managed to find a dead cleric in there that he replaced all of his armor and weapons with. So there is a wizard, a fighter, and a paladin, and the paladin is the only one that has armor and weapons. And the other two, the barbarian and the cleric, are in a different part of the crypts. Basically, what I decided to have them do is, okay, since you were stupid enough to do this, I'll kind of reward you. You're in the crypts where you need to be, but you were supposed to go through the castle to get here. So I have them in the crypt, but they're split, and I'm throwing traps at them, and I'm throwing all sorts of monsters at them. So next time we play, I guarantee them that they will die.
Didn't you say that last time?
I know, I keep saying that, and about the time we were getting ready to wrap it up, I looked at all of them, and I said, why won't you people die? All I ask is you people to die.
Well, they were related to Inigo Montoya.
Yeah. Oh, but I'm like, seriously, how can you... Every time they needed a good roll, they got it. It was just enough to make a check, or just enough to kill something, or just enough to do this. And I'm like, how are you people even doing this? So now my party is in the crypts of Ravenloft, and they're split, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens next time when we play, to see if I can actually succeed in killing them, or they actually succeed in killing Strahd. So we'll see.
Oh, you did check their dice, right?
I should have, because one of them always jokes about bringing some loaded dice. So I think next time, before I allow entry, I'm going to have to check all dice.
Okay.
So what did you do in game and maybe out of game this week, Piley?
All right, we'll go into my Artificer, where I ran with you the Tomb of the Shadow Knight on... Well, we first tried it at hard, and it was a complete disaster. And you're wondering why it was, because I believe we were level 12, and the dungeon is 8 at the natural level, so therefore 9, I believe, that at hard, and we were kicked in the face.
Oh, yeah, it was like a pure massacre is what it was.
So therefore, we tried it again at normal, and everything seemed to be on a saner level at that point. We then did the Tomb of the Shadow Lord again at normal, because we decided not to even tempt fate and attempt to do it at hard. And that's all we got through, because those two took a pretty long amount of time. So therefore, I was working on my Cleric, and my level 4 Cleric, I went through the catacombs, did the Friar's Knees to find a witness, the old archives, and the Crypt of Gerard Dryden. And I also did the Sharn Syndicate for Stand Your Ground, Dirty Laundry, Stormweaver Fresco, Bookbinder Rescue, and Repossession. And
that is...
Wait a minute. Isn't that last week's what I did with it?
The Sharn Syndicate is, but I don't remember you talking about the Catacombs last week, though.
Right, the Catacombs was certainly... Actually, no, the Sharn Syndicate, I know what I did, is I had I'd copied and pasted from the character that did it last week. And I forgot to take out a note that I had after it, so I removed the note now because.
And that is the character that you're going to run the temple with me with my Pale Master, correct?
That was the original plan.
Oh, you changed the plan on me now, have you?
I sort of changed plans a little bit simply because I was busy with other things, so I didn't get around to getting past level 4.
I see, and here I was scrambling to try to make level 7, and you barely made level 4. Jeez,
right.
Jeez.
But I will tell you. Now, what I also did was that I created a new character for my solo run through the temple, because I originally was planning to do an Artificer, but I decided that I had to give a go with the character I originally did the Temple of Elemental Evil with. And that was a wizard rogue. And I tried to combine them to do an Artificer, but I decided, let me try it with the wizard rogue. So when I saw that the level 7 veterans was on sale,
Yeah, I'm really thinking about doing that too.
Yeah, I saw that on sale. I was
Yeah.
thinking of doing it anyway, and then when I saw 75%, I said I better
Yeah.
wait till Thursday just in case they put it on sale. And they're like 75% off. Yeah, okay, boom.
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing that too.
So I created a level 5 wizard, level 2 rogue. That gives me enough rogue to open locks and do traps, which is the specialty of that character. The character wasn't all that much into sneakiness from the original one since her background was being a locksmith.
And when you say the original, you're talking pen and paper.
I'm talking about pen and paper.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, I just wanted to clear that
Yeah,
up. 'Cause,
yeah. My original one was a locksmith as a background, so therefore having more wizard than rogue, and the rogue being there mainly to doing the locks and the traps being the highlights, so it would be consistent with that background. And I didn't put points into things like sneak and stuff like that, which I don't think would fit the character as much.
Mm-hmm.
I did level 5 wizard so that I could have things like fireball and lightning bolt, and that's why I did 5 and 2. When I got out, I did decide to test the character doing the Bookbinder's Rescue.
Wow, you're just looking for trouble, aren't you?
Well, it's a level 4 quest, and I was level 5 and 2. So I come in out of there, and I immediately went in there solo and found out that I didn't have things quite coordinated in there on how to use the character. And I was just punched in the face at the opening in there because when everything was coming in there, all I had with me, I think, was a celestial dog.
Oh, no.
And no hireling or anything like that. And I just got punched in the face. And I also didn't think about all I wanted to do properly. So yeah, it was just one big fiasco. I then decided I need to go get a hireling because this was before the patch, so we didn't get the free hireling yet. So I went there, get the hireling, and that's when I realized that you got 0 plus. I then went and did the old go to the platinum, send one of my characters, throw some platinum into the bank, and I pulled it out and was able to get my hireling.
Oh, okay.
Then I went back in, and then I realized I forgot to buy Thieves tools.
No!
Because I got gear for a wizard since I was a level 5 wizard. They said, okay, do you want wizard's gear or do you want rogue gear? I said, okay, wizard's gear, I guess. So I got wizard's gear, and of course, rogue gear is what gets the Thieves tools.
Yeah.
Well, I assume the rogue gear will get Thieves tools.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
Thieves you don't tools. Get it for wizard's gear.
No, that would probably not make sense. So yeah.
Right. So you only get gear for one class when you multi-class through the storytelling session. And then after getting the gear all properly set up, then I was able to complete the mission without any trouble at all.
Well, good.
And what did you remember now?
Yeah, and I was going to say the quest, you know how I said when I was doing everything on Elite and the quest that I had problems with was there was 2 quests. It was the Butcher's Bath, and the other one was recovering the lost tome. That is the one where you go into the library and then the guy sets all the traps off, and then you have to go down through all those traps.
Oh, I didn't think that'd be too tough on Elite.
Yeah, those traps killed me instantly because I tried to.
You're a wizard.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. The one part where you have to walk through the water and there's the lightning that comes down and you can have the runes that turn that lightning off.
Yeah.
I tried to get over to the one rune in time and I jumped, and for some reason I must have lagged and I didn't jump in time to jump past the lightning to get to the rune, and the lightning hit me in midair and just killed me instantly.
Oh, I think I just have... Oh, I guess under hard, the lightning is harder to wait for the timing so that you can get by without it?
It must be. I don't know. That was crazy. It took me like 3 times to get through that part.
Oh, ouch.
And I think that's the first time I ever did that quest on Elite, so yeah. But I did manage to get through it, but holy cow, that was hard.
All right. And now also, I did do a run of the Castle Ravenloft game, and I decided to try what would happen if I had a cleric solo find the icon of Ravenloft, since officially they say it's for 2 to 5. And I wanted to see how well it works with one player, or one character, I should say. And actually, the cleric, I don't know about other characters, but the cleric had absolutely no trouble with that one. And I think part of the reason is because the boss fight in that one is there is no boss fight, and when you get to the final room, the number of creatures you find is equal to the number of players you have. Or I think it's actually 1 plus the number of players you have. So therefore, it scales by the number of players very well. So therefore, I didn't have anything too tough at the beginning. Actually, I did have to use a healing surge in that last room, but that was my first healing surge, so therefore everything was fine there. All right, so let's go into donations then. Well, at least we could go into them if we had any, but if you would like to support DDO players, you can simply go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance, the network we are part of, on Patreon. There you will find rewards, including a mention on DDO Players News, or even be a guest host with us. We do have an iTunes review. And what is this review?
It is the fabled Lost iTunes review. If you listened last week, Cordovan did say, when you said last week we didn't have any iTunes reviews, he said, wait a minute, that's not true. I gave you an iTunes review.
Ooh.
And I told him I looked and I didn't see one. Well, I had to do some trickery to find this review. For some reason, when I went on the web page of the iTunes store, this review did not show up. But then when I went through iTunes itself and went through the iTunes store through iTunes itself, I saw the review. So I've never seen that happen before, so I don't know what happened. So
it's behind a secret door.
Apparently, and I passed my DC check of it, I guess. So yes, so we do have the review. It is a couple weeks old, but it's a pretty good review, though.
These two walked into the establishment smelling like dead kobold. Although, around here, that's not saying much. Certainly didn't smell worse than most folk, and a right better than a many I deal with every day. They were talking about their early adventures, and sounded like decent folk, at least from around here. A bit light on the coin, but they didn't knock anything over or punch anyone in the face. So there's that. Overall, if these two walk into your tavern, you can expect a nice sort and no trouble. That I saw anyway. Maud Coulter, Customer Experience Manager, The Rusty Nail, Stormreach.
That, I think, is our most awesome review that we've ever gotten. And it was a 5-star review, and it was entitled, Great Podcast, Well Produced, and a Great DDO Resource. So,
and great guests.
And great guests to you, that's right. So thanks for that. And I guess from now on, I'm going to check both ways for reviews because for some reason, I guess sometimes they show up on the web version and sometimes they don't. So iTunes, what are you going to do?
All right. Our featured comment this week is a comment from DDO Players News, episode 126, a chat with Cordovan Park Dew. And what is this all about?
Ms. Jerry Snook. He left a quick correction to the episode we did last week. During the episode, he did say that Mike Pence, who is now the governor of Indiana, was a state senator, but he wanted to correct himself to make sure that he was a congressman, not a state senator.
Philip Traldu said, "Cool show. Keep up the good work. Gotta make a halfling to make it into Halfling Summer Games."
Oh, halflings.
Yes. And you also have a few random comments from the DDO Players 500-point Turbine Points giveaway.
Sure, I just kind of went through that and picked out a few of these. The first one is from Fealty. He says, a great show. I really love how you guys are so cheerful and new to the game. By the way, since you have done the lower level dungeons like Korthos and the Harbor, have you found yourself zerging through like a pro? Also, I really remember when I was in a group of vets and they moved through a quest like a wolf pack. It was exhilarating. Patrick of DDO Cast has several min-max players, and I think it would be fun to see if you could group up with them and to see how you feel when you are paired with some serious vets. Just an idea. Keep up the good work. Also, how long have you been playing Lotro?
How long have I been playing Lotro? Well, I have been playing since the August after release, so that'll be 3 months after launch.
And I have been playing Lotro about a month and a half or so before free-to-play. So that would be I'm trying to think how long Lotro's been free-to-play. It's been a long time.
Well, let's see. Round it's 3.5 years, I think.
Yeah, I could say about
free-to-play.
3.5 years, 4 years, something like that. So not quite as long as Pine Leaf, but a long time.
Yeah. All right, then. Mock Tasker says, I'm in, of course, 500 points, like a goodbye. like a good buy would be the temple, eh?
Yes, the temple would be a perfect thing to spend your turbine points on, Mock Tack Master. And Axel says, I do really enjoy the podcast, although I usually listen through YouTube, so I haven't been to the site before. Then he has a smiley face.
All right, then. And then Digital Terror says, turbine points are a wondrous thing. They buy you lots of bling. And what I love about this most is the chance to win with a simple post. Okay. Was that originally formatted so that you could obviously see that it was a poem instead of prose?
No, it was. I just copied it exactly like it was. See, I wondered if you were going to be impressed that we actually got a poem on DDO Players finally.
Yeah, all right. Well, they will have a lot of trouble going against Ali from the Loto Players section, who actually was our guest on Loto Players.
But we got a poem on DDO Players finally.
We got a poem there, yes. All right, let's go into our emails, or at least we would if we had any. But you could contact us by emailing at podcast@ddoplayers.com. You could also follow us at Twitter, the Players Alliance @PlayersAlly, DDO Players @DDO Players, Draculetta @Draculetta_72, and Pineleaf @Pineleaf Needle. The Players Alliance has 3 shows every single week on Mondays at 8:30 p.m. 8 U.S. Eastern Time. We have DDO Players News. On Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Guild Wars Players News. And on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Loto Players News. And you can join us for our live shows at ddoplayers.com/live. That is it for tonight's show. And this is Pineleaf Needles reminding you to destroy those princes of the apocalypse.